Dr. McFarland, so great to see you. Thanks for being on the show.
Hey, so happy to be here. Thanks for this opportunity.
You've had a great run. I have 15 years at one school in an AD role. That is really rare these days.
It is, and I tell people all the time when I started, I was 6'4". I'm not that now, so you get beat down a little bit, but
Yes,
that's why we work in athletics, right?
that's
Every day is a
right.
battle, and you want to be better tomorrow than you were the day before, and so really happy, really excited about the direction we're going up here at Bloomsburg. I got great people, I got great student athletes, and just that's what keeps me coming in.
That is so good. I did that role for 9 years at the D3 and D2 level, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Um, Keeping your head up and feeling like you're always stretching that neck is it's a big part of the job, just to keep yourself from getting too beat down.
Yes.
I'm going to throw a curveball at you to start with because I know you're a professor, and I went through kind of your course catalog that you teach, and I got really excited about some of the classes you teach. Give me a quick tutorial on sales, sponsorship, and fundraising.
Oh, it's a great class. I
I
love it.
love that.
It's my favorite one, and I could talk about it all day, right? But we do, for example, elevator pitches, making sure you got the right, know what you need to know, and you got 30 seconds, and what's your first impression because you're not going to get a second chance.
Yes.
Um, I break the class down into three sections. One is on sales, so let's talk about your traditional game tickets.
Yeah.
Could be anything on those lines. The second one is more the corporate side, corporate sponsorships, fulfillment. How do you seal the deal? How is your proposal? And then my favorite part is the first topic. And I won't give you the secrets of what I do with it, but it's really about the philanthropic gift. And it's because it's about relationships, right?
Right.
All of it is a relationship. I'm not going to walk to you, Matt, and go, "Hey, Matt, I want $1 million today." I'm going to ask you for $1 million probably next week, right?
Right.
But that you can't get there without that, and it's so nice to come in because when you're in the AD chair, as you know, every day is different, every challenge is different. I just mentioned right as we were getting started, we're in our all-in day giving right now. I talked about that today in my class a little bit, right?
Yeah.
We're in all-in day giving. Got off the phone with an alum who committed a $25,000 gift for this exact thing.
It's great.
Now, if I'm in the middle of my class, I'm walking into that classroom and say, "Hey, folks, guess what happened today? Let me
Yeah.
tell you about a phone call I was just on." And the real life, and to see those students' eyes light up. Well, wait a second. How many times have you talked to this person? What have you done? So I love that class. It is by far my favorite one. And actually, the dean of our college was in my office earlier today, and we were talking about the class, and we were talking about how I pair them up and partner them up, and things like that. And he just said, "That's a great idea, great concept." So we really work on that. That's the most fun section of the class. If I had to break it into three sections, is really that philanthropic and talking about how to make those asks, but knowing that I'm not making an ask tomorrow.
Yeah.
Especially, it takes some time to be able to develop those relationships.
I was a head college basketball coach and athletic director for a long time, and I was probably in my early 40s before I figured out that elevator speech. Before I really felt like, man, I got this. I've got it down to a tight 30 seconds. I know what I
Right.
want to say. I know how to convince them that I'm worth the time. I'm worth the conversation. I'm there for them. So that is huge. How do your students take that? What's the journey look like from when you introduce it and they have to do it the first time to what kind of at that end, that final exam? What does that journey look like for your students?
Absolutely. It's a lot of the old stumbling, rumbling, fumbling, at the start of, well, I'm so and so, and I'm like, where was your eye contact? How come you didn't shake my hand? How come you didn't, how's your body posture? What are you doing? And oh,
Right.
okay, so there's one step, right? The second step then is you're not selling me, you're telling me. Right? You're not going to sell me on hiring you tomorrow or
Right.
making that connection. So how are we going to make that relationship? And then the third one, and this is the one I always keep in my back pocket, is how do we end it? What's our walking away point? Hey, Matt, I'd love to get together with you next week to talk some more about what we just briefly had a
Right.
chance to today, right? And I
Yeah.
let them try to figure out, what are you guys missing? What's our call to action?
Yeah.
And that call to action is where then the light bulb goes off with them. And a lot of it for me is I tell them, be prepared. and you think of the hotels, right? We've all stayed in a hotel. You got the 3-floor hotel, you got the 15-floor hotel, and you got the 30-floor hotel. If I got a 30-floor hotel and I'm coming down with my guy, the person I need to have that relationship with, I'm going to have a little bit more time as long as my surroundings allow.
Yeah.
If I'm on that 15th floor, I got to maybe carve it back a little bit. But if I have 3 floors to go, you're right. It better be 30 seconds. I better make sure you know who I am, what we're going to talk about, and when and how we're going to get together to talk about it. So it's really, it's a great, section of the class, but it's also a little bit more of, well, now we've had that first relationship,
Yeah.
that first encounter. But guess what? I'm not asking you for money on the second encounter. I'm not coming at you. It's not all about philanthropic.
Right.
Philanthropic is about, giving and supporting, because it's not all that, right? That's not the goal. But if I need to have a relationship with you to find out everything I can to know what your interests are.
That's right.
And so it's such a great experience. And to see the light bulb finally click with some of these students, it's amazing. In the class, when we taught it this fall, one student figured out the what and the why. And I swear them all to secrecy at the end of the class. Do not tell any of your friends or fellow majors what we're going to do in this part of the project. And it's so neat because they don't. They keep it close to their vest. Like, you
Good for
haven't figured it
them.
out
That's
yet?
so great.
Keep working. And
Yeah.
it's one of those. There's so few secrets anymore in this world, right? I don't know how these kids are keeping it from every other one. So it's so neat to see it develop and evolve that way, and see their skill then evolve from being that, oh gosh, what I'm this major, that major. And there's some great videos out that we use from resources. And one of the neat things is the NCAA does some things through a lot of their developmental stuff. It's elevating your game and things like that. So there's some great tools out there and some great videos that I try to show and embed so that people can see, look, you can still fumble and still recover.
Yeah.
But is your
That's
first impression one where I'm going to have a second time? And how do you really, that has to be a learned skill. Like you said, it may take a while to get there. I don't have it the best. I mean, I've kicked donors off our sidelines at games because I didn't know they were donors.
yeah.
And you go, ooh, I should probably walk that back a little bit, have another
Right.
conversation. Let me explain why this happened. And then you develop a better relationship because you're
Absolutely.
being transparent about it and saying, that's on me. And you have to be able to do that.
Well, that 30 seconds is about, you're establishing trust.
Absolutely.
You're establishing authenticity. You know,
Without question.
I'm not selling Bloomsburg right now. I'm selling me. I'm selling Mike. I'm selling Matt. Right.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
and,
Absolutely.
and at 20 years old, that's got to be hard to grasp that. Well, I've got this job. I have to sell this. Well, no. You first. I'm not going to
Exactly.
buy anything from you if I don't trust you, if I don't believe in you, if I don't feel like there's
Yep.
something long term here, right?
Yeah, and Bloomsburg has a great degree. I can say this. My daughter graduated from it. One of my two daughters, and it's professional sales and marketing. And it gets me when those students come in because they have the elevator speech. They know what they need, right? I'm like, I'll call on you guys last because you've already done
That's
this
right.
once or twice. But that's what's so neat about it, is because they get to see it in a different level and in a different context. Because selling something versus selling yourself are two
Yeah.
entirely different things. And to be able to put them together and marry them, what a great college experience.
It makes me feel so good because it's where I want higher education to go. It's, I mean, yes, your sports management kids should all be taking that class, but so should your biology kids. So should your English kids. So should your communications kids, your engineering kids. We all have to sell something at some point. We all have to sell ourselves at some point for a job, for I need a grant, I need a sponsorship, whatever that may be. We all have to sell ourselves. So I love that you're doing that. I can, and what I love the most about it, Mike, is that the kids are keeping the secret because they're learning and they're
Right.
having fun learning. You know,
Absolutely. And
they're not passing on test answers. They want
no,
everybody to feel the way they do about the confidence I bet they're getting.
absolutely. And what's really neat is, I tell them all the time, your resume is your written sales pitch.
Right.
Your elevator speech is your verbal connection.
Yes.
And you've got to be able to pull off both, because we could be disconnected right now. Gosh, are we going to get back together? Are we going to reconnect? hopefully we've established enough of that rapport, trust, and other to be able to do that. So yeah, I love it. We have great students, we have great kids, and the ones I love too. Even more importantly, I have a lot of student athletes who are in the sport management major,
Yeah.
and to see the looks on their faces, even like, geez, my teammate never told me any of this. That's what's really great, because they're like, oh, I remember the Title IX lesson, or I remember the lesson on, whatever else it could be, the NCAAs and the differences between divisions 1, 2, and 3. But boy, why didn't they tell me anything about this? Why didn't they give me this? Because they want them to learn it too and have that same feeling of, I don't have this concept yet. Let me gain it.
Well, it's a gift. They're giving a gift to their peers.
Absolutely.
This Dr. McFarland gave me this gift. I'm going to pass it on to you, but I want you to get it from him. I want you to have that same experience. I love that. That's how education should feel, right?
Oh, and that's why I said I love coming out of that class. There's time.
Yeah, I
I
bet
think
you
I
do.
think they are excited when class ends. I think I'm the one who's not, right? Because I wanted to keep going so we can keep getting it going
That's
and keep it
right.
rolling. So
It's so great. We're going to have a part two. We're going to get into recruiting, but I'm going to bring all this back because I think that 16, 17-year-old needs to understand that's where recruiting starts. What's your elevator pitch? Who are you? Why should I recruit you? Why should I be
absolutely
interested? Why are you interested in me? You know,
right,
it can't take a half an hour to get there. You have to be
correct.
able to say, this is why I'm interested in you. This is why I want you to be interested in me. So I'm going to bring some of this back, but that is awesome. That
Yeah,
gets
no,
me so excited about what you're doing and how you're doing it. And um, it's as a teacher, I, coming into your class, I bet I could steal about 20 different things on what I could do, no matter what I'm teaching, just with that mindset, right?
I would hope so. Again, yeah, and again, I say that because you want them all to walk out feeling not only validated because they took the course and they got a grade and they did the work to get said grade, but
Right.
to walk away and say, "Wow, I got some confidence. I've got some things that are going to be real life. I'm not reading resumes. I don't need to read their resumes.
Yeah.
I want to hear their resume and I want to hear what they have to say, and that's what's important."
Truth. Yeah. And I tell recruits this all the time. Send an email to a college coach, send them your film, send them your grades. But if you don't call them and they don't get to hear your voice and they don't get to hear that you have the courage to make that phone call, number one, but number two, that you're really serious. This isn't an email you're sending to 200 coaches.
Right?
So can't wait to get into that with you.
No, absolutely.
I want to talk about retention
Yes.
because your numbers are eye popping. I mean, eye popping. I don't know if there's a study across the country for D1 and D2, but I would imagine if you're not the number one in retention in the country, you've got to be in the top 10.
Yeah, I don't know where we rank. I will tell you that since I've been here and again in my 15th season, we try to look at things differently. I call it RRG, recruit, retain, and graduate.
Yep, love it.
And for me, it's about improving those grade point averages. Right now, every team, we have 23 teams, 741 student athletes. Our overall athletics GPA is above a 3.0 for all of those student athletes.
What?
And that's been a huge push for us because, you know, it's easy for coaches. We call it here, give them the love, right? I'm going to recruit you. You're part of my program. You may play, you may not play, but I still have to give you the love. And all of our coaches have bought into that and they give that love. And that's why we're so fortunate to retain many of these kids. Now,
Yeah.
today's landscape, transfer portal, other NIL, all of those things coming into play are probably going to adjust those numbers a little bit, but that's not just going to be a Bloomsburg adjustment. That's nationwide. That's
Yeah.
divisions. You pick the division, pick the school, pick the country, right? But one of the things that we've really put this push on is the RRG. We're going to recruit you, we're going to retain you, and then I want to watch you walk across that stage at graduation. And that's what's important.
I just did a keynote on this for a conference out in the Northwest, almost exactly that topic that you're talking about. The difficult part is the execution. It's easy to have the philosophy, right?
Mhm.
What are you doing now that you're 15 years into this? You've been through probably at least 2 or 3 cycles with most of your staff.
Mhm.
What are you doing in terms of how you're pipelining and resourcing the coaches you want, how you're getting those right coaches for your fit of your school. But what are you doing to make sure the buy-in is with that RRG? Because it's easy to say,
Absolutely.
and then it's
Yeah,
hard to do for 85 practices and then an off season, right?
correct. And you've got to model it from day one, right? From the time they get here.
Yeah.
We actually talked earlier today in our department meeting. We're changing some things up for the fall, where we're going to start meeting more with all of the student athletes from an athletics administrative piece, because the coaches are going to give them the love. The coaches are going to work with them. The coaches see them every day. They see them more than the faculty. They see them more than the only other people who might see them more is probably the person either in the residence hall checking them in when they go in, or somebody in the dining hall, right?
Right.
So for us, it's really about having that coach be that first line of defense, but then having us back them up and say, hey, this is important. And if I have a new coach on staff, one of the first things I say to them is, these are our general principles, right? We call it PASS here for Bloomsburg: pride, accountability, student athlete experience, and success on and off the field. And every time I think back to what is that pride, and I say this all the time. I say this in recruiting. I say this to our coaches. I challenge our coaches. What does PASS mean? I'll be walking down the hall. Hey, what's PASS mean? And it's really about that pride is, showing your colors, showing your school colors. Accountability. Guess what? If you're not in the classroom, you're not an athlete. I say that to every recruit. What do you want to major in? And they're looking at me like, well, I'm a center on the basketball team. I don't need to major. No, what is your major? What are you interested in taking? Right. And then guess what? I'm also a member of the faculty. And I'm going to get a phone call when you don't show up at English 101, because the English 101 faculty member, I go have coffee with once a
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
And being able to show them that it's more. Coaches, I tell them the same. Your accountability is different. Obviously, you have to hit your budget goals. We want more W's than L's. Everybody does. But it's also about recruiting those young men and young women. It's about retaining those young men and young women, and it's about helping them to graduate. So we work on those things. We talk about them at all times. Success can be measured in so many ways.
Yeah.
No coach wants to an 0-10 season. They all want to be 10-0. So do I. But guess what? If we're hitting all of our other benchmarks, not going to be happy with 0-10, but we'll take it. And if we put that student athlete experience as paramount, and they're having a great experience in the res halls, in their classrooms, on your team, it's a home run. Everybody's going to be successful. So that's kind of how we do it. And we try to continue to push that, whether you're a new coach or whether you're a veteran coach. I have a couple coaches who are here who've been here longer than me. They bought in. They understand what our goals are.
Fantastic.
And that's what's important. Now, are they happy about budgets? No. Who is, right? I'm not happy about my own personal budget, right? But they've bought into the idea because they've seen what we've been able to do. They've seen that we're able to recruit a better student. Key word there. We get that better student, we get the better athlete as well.
Yeah.
So they've seen those elements, and we can say, here's our data. And it's really fun going to your provost or chief academic officer and saying, here's our retention rates. And guess what? We need additional support from the faculty side for XYZ. And here's why. We're at 87. I want to be at 90. How can we get there together? And those are some of the key selling points that we've been able to put in place.
So good. I've got a bunch of questions. I'm going to kind of go backwards and come back to them. I want to talk about the P and PASS first, the pride.
Yes.
I want to talk about where tolerance, grace fits into that. Do you put those words, those ideas, those principles into that?
We don't say them that way.
Right.
What we say is the pride. It is a privilege to wear our uniform. It is a privilege to have Bloomsburg across your chest.
Right.
Don't lose that privilege. And we stress it in that way a little bit because, again, you're not going to be an athlete if you're not an academic.
Yeah.
You're not going to, and if you could be the worst athlete in the world, you still want to be part of our program. We want you to be part of our program. So we do have some social standards that we adhere to. And those are all important elements. We come out with the pride element and that pride piece, as in when I walk away, and I tell the story a lot. When I got here, our Hall of Fame was not in a hall. It was in some trophy cases and in some boxes. We put it in a true hallway. And that sense of pride, I kept pushing. This is how we're going to get there. We're going to build this pride and instill it within our student athletes. And the day that the contractors were here putting up all the plaques on the wall, two football players walking down the hall in front of me, and the one hits his buddy, and he says, "I'm going to be on this wall before you." And
That's
I
great.
stopped him in the hall and I said, "Gentlemen, that's the pride that I want you to tell your teammates about. You want to be part of this program forever. And the only way you can do that is to do the right things." And that's where we've been trying to get to.
It's such an important message. It's leadership, it's accountability, but more importantly, it's ownership. Your student athletes are saying, "I want this for me, but I want this for us as well."
Without question.
I don't want to get into the weeds with this, but I know as the former ADA president, Athletic Director Association for Division II, I know you just finished your time in that role, and you still play a huge role in the Athletic Directors Association of NACDA and the NCAA. We're talking about a generation that's had to go through COVID, has had to deal for the first time with pronouns and students that are getting more and more comfortable being who they are, and it's different. There's politics involved. How do you guys deal with all of that in terms of making sure everyone's treated with respect, but understands we're going to push you, we're going to challenge you, we're going to help you get to your potential, but we're going to respect your opinions, your views? How do you deal with all that?
Matt, that's an evolving question. It's a great
Yeah.
one. And I'll give you a good example. One of the things that our conference does is we do a lot of DEI initiatives, right? And we did some listening sessions with in accordance with what our conference felt was very important. And it is a very important topic on all fronts. For me, coming out of that, we had some concerns that were raised by our student athletes, but they weren't necessarily DEI concerns. Some of them were, right? Some of them weren't. Some of them were just, "Hey, where are we in athletics? Where are we going? What are we trying to do?
Where do we stand?
Where do we exactly? Where do we stand? How can I become maybe more engaged or even less engaged?
It's
My
great.
coach tells me to go to the speaker, but my coach isn't there."
Right.
Right? Things like that. So it's about modeling those behaviors. It's about talking to them and having those open things. I mean, my door's shut right now, but my door's open 99% of the time.
I
And
bet.
I will walk through our hallways. If I see a student athlete, most of the time they're walking in tired, got their book bag. Oh, I got to go through a lift. I got to go to a practice. And I'm stopping them. "How you doing?" Try and put that smile on, and let them know that we care, let them know that we show that it's important. And that whole piece of, for us, a handful of years ago, we had a student athlete who came into me about bullying within their own team.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we created what we call Protect Our Pack. And it's really about, some pretty lofty goals, right? Let's stop racism. Let's end bullying. Let's make sure that we're protecting our brothers and our sisters that we're playing with. And let's treat everybody with some level of respect. And it's a hard message for some. It really is. But for many, it's about protecting our pack of Huskies, my teammates. It might not even be my teammates. It might be the other team's teammates.
That's right.
And when we see each other out and about, when we're at contests, supporting each other, coming to other sports games. I love the fact we had a softball game the other day, women's lacrosse, stopped their practice. They all ran over and stood at the fence and cheered for an inning and then went back into practice, right?
That's so
It's
great.
it's showing that we're going to protect each other. We're going to work together. It's not all about, at the end of the day, it is, right? We all want to win, but it's about showing some compassion, some empathy to your other teammates and your other colleagues. And it starts in the classroom, it starts on the field, it starts in our hallways and in our offices. And if we're modeling and leading that behavior and pushing that, let's call it an agenda. It's not in a way of someone thinking an agenda, but of protecting our pack. We're pushing that message, then gosh darn it, our student athletes better do the same. And they have been. And I love that about our student athletes. Like I said, we have great, great student athletes, and the coaches who are mentoring them and supporting them work equally as hard to carry that positive message.
How often are you having a coaching staff meeting? for
We
all your
meet twice a month, every other week. Sometimes it'll be three. I try and bring special guests in.
yeah.
Today, we met this morning, and we brought in, I'll just slide over here, something about Red Folder. Mental health counseling and working with our students and student athletes and providing services. We have admissions come to our meetings. We have different folks come in. Sure, staff meetings are boring. We all know that. We talk about budgets. We talk about things that nobody wants to hear about. But then we talk about those important things too. And we talk about how can we help. And I always end it, today ended it with, is there anything else for the good of the group? And one of my coaches said, how about we all congratulate this coach for hitting a milestone?
It's great.
Silly me, I should have been the one to say it. I'm so happy my other coach did, but that's where that messaging is carrying on. We're all here to support each other.
I figured those were the things. I'm interested if the Protect the Pack message is a part of that biweekly meeting. Is there a piece of that where you try and integrate or remind? Because it's when you're trying to win games, you're trying to recruit, you're trying to get that kid in the door, you're trying to get to the conference tournament. It's easy not to forget about those values, but to forget the reminder that needs to come with them for yourself as a coach and your players, right?
No, definitely, Matt. And it's probably not stated as much. We put it on the back of every student athlete t-shirt,
Oh,
the
good.
core messages.
Love
So
that.
again, they're seeing it. They're
The
seeing it
subliminal
on the
message,
ground.
right?
Exactly. And we try to do those kind of things. It's kind of like the PASS program that we have, the Protect Our Pack. It's there. They all know it. We could probably do a better job.
Yeah.
Again, as I say to every coach, we'll do our evaluations. There's always a category or a unionized environment, and it says, what's your win-loss? And the preseason evaluation gives you improve, maintain, or not applicable. There's not a coach on my staff where I don't click the box improve. Because unless we won a national championship in a sport the previous year, we need to improve on what we did the previous year, right? So there's always that message where it's always important that we touch on certain things at certain times. Probably need to do it a little more. And, a good reminder to me as well to make sure we're selling the right messages.
Do you do that preseason and postseason
With the evaluations?
with your coaches?
Yes. Yeah.
Before
So
their season begins and then come back to it?
yeah, so what we do is, again, we're in a unique environment, in a unionized environment. So I'll just give you the example. We just did our postseason evaluation for the winter sports, because now all of our winter sports are done, wrestling, basketball, swimming, etc. We did their end of season review and did their preseason evaluation for now 26-27, right on the
All
heel.
that.
So
That's
the
great.
message is we wrap this thing up, right?
Right.
25-26 is kind of in a ball. 26-27, let's start preparing now, because guess what? The work starts again today.
Yep.
To look ahead. And then during the course of the year, we'll touch on it. I meet regularly with my coaches, individually, to really kind of say, where are we? Where's our program? What do you have? What are some concerns? Is everything okay? Some meetings are very simple. Sometimes I'll get a text from a coach that says, hey, I'm tied up. Can we reschedule? Or I've got nothing this week unless you want to get together and chat. So, we kind of play it that way. But again, those messages come out more in those one-on-ones than they do maybe in the full group setting.
Yeah. Well, I imagine it feels the same way when you stop a kid in the hallway or outside your office and, hey, how you doing? I would imagine once a week you get a nugget out of those conversations like, that needs to be a focus of topic in our next staff meeting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, there's other vehicles out there, SAC and some of the others,
Yeah.
where those things can germinate up naturally. Yeah. But, again, kind of the old adage, right? If you want to know something, go to your athletic training room. You're going to find out you're going to find out more than you want. Right.
Exactly.
Because those student athletes are there. Many times they're vulnerable because their knee hurts and, take my mind off it. Let me tell you something.
That's right.
But even there, it's about visibility for me, Matt. It's about really. I tell people all the time. I make it a point I call it a walkabout, where I'm going to go from coach to coach office, say hello. If they're not in there, they might not see me that week, right, or that day, or whatever it could be. And I just make it a point to be and have that visibility. And we have a great setup here in our building that overlooking our basketball court is a press box setting. And our student athletes love to come up there and study. We have a student athlete lounge. They use that as well. But every time I walk by, and I could probably pick 5 young ladies right now from our volleyball team who sit in there religiously, and they always forget to turn the light on over their heads. And I walk by and I turn the light on. And as soon as the light goes on, they know exactly who did it. They know exactly that they're going to get yelled at about it. And it's one of those where it's now become this ongoing joke. I think they leave it off intentionally now just to make me walk through. But that's where you get those kind of engagements where you're going to get additional information about where they are and who they are. And I love it when a student athlete pops into my office, even if they're coming to my associate AD's office or our game ops who are right on each side of me, and they're not there or their door's shut and they pop in, I'm asking them how they're doing. I don't care that they're here to see the others. I want to know what's going on. Hey, do you need anything? Can I help you with something? How are classes? Things like that. So it's really important to get and feel the pulse of those student athletes because they're the ones who we're here for. And at the end of the day, you know, kind of like with any business, right? Anything, your customer, right? And I don't like to use that term because I don't look at our student athletes as our customers, but I look at our student athletes as the people who need to be happy.
That's
And
right.
if they're not happy, the coach probably isn't happy. We're probably not winning games, which means moms and dads aren't happy. And which usually means the president's knocking on my door saying, hey, what's going on?
That's right. Um, I could do this all day with you. I want to finish with what I think is another amazing stat that you and I have already talked about is every kid in your program had a 3.0 last semester, right?
Well, it was the average of them
The
all.
average
So
was
we
a
had a
3.0.
couple below, but
Yeah.
and
But for the
again,
most part,
every team was above a 3.0 last. Yep. In the
I'm
fall
a high
season.
I'm a high school AD. Let's say I'm a small college AD. Give me 3 bullets, 3 things that your action steps that you and your coaches are doing to push that there. What are you doing to help accelerate that?
Yeah. Well, and again, I leave it up a lot to the teams to determine what those three are, right?
Okay.
But first and foremost, we have a group that has a study hall. They call it the Breakfast Club every morning, right? Let's make sure that those young people, right? I'm not going to say men or women. I'm not going to give that secret
Yeah.
away. But let's make sure that they're doing a breakfast club. So they're up, they're studying, they're making sure that they're going to move their grade point average above.
Okay.
The other thing is we don't exclude you. If you have a 4.0, that doesn't mean you don't have to be studying. Just because you're a good student, model the behavior, show, because you could be in that same room, whether it's a classroom, whether it's the student athlete lounge, and someone could say, wow, Matt's really smart. Why is he here? He's here because we're making a commitment to athletics.
It goes back to modeling as well.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Absolutely. And then the third one is probably the relationships with our faculty and making sure that we're doing the right things. I always chuckle because I know the student athletes when they show up the couple minutes early, but the first class, right? I'm going to know them from their name. But when they show up the first class, the first 2 rows are taken right in the middle. I'm like, there's 4 of my student athletes right there, right? Because the coaches are saying to them, be present, be visible. And usually by the end of that first class, every one of them, if I don't know them, is coming in and saying, oh, hey, by the way, I'm on this team. I'm a first year student. I'm a junior. Hopefully by the time they're a junior, I know them. And usually by the time they're first year, I should know them. But we want to make sure that they're doing that not only with me as a professor, but doing that with their English professor, their biology professor. So now all of a sudden, we had a softball game the other day. 2 of our health sciences biology professors were sitting in the crowd watching a softball game because one of our student athletes was in their class and they said, we have a game tomorrow. Why don't you come?
The power of the invitation.
Oh my goodness, it's huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
And what those 2 professors did for those girls, for them to feel supported and loved and cared about outside that classroom. You don't have to go to every game. Just to show up every once in a while. Such a big
Yeah.
deal.
And we stress it too. We love doing faculty. We call it faculty appreciation days at many of our
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah.
And the student athletes get to invite them. And some teams have even expanded it. I had to chuckle when I saw our campus police walk in and I'm like, something must be going on. What's wrong? I said, oh, we were invited by the team. And it's like that is tremendous. That's taking it even one step further than what we're trying to do to engage the faculty, to say we're engaging campus.
Right. I love that. All right. I got an off the wall question for you. Where'd you go to high school?
Went to high school at a small school in outside of St. Louis in
What was
Eureka
the name
High
of the high school?
Eureka High School in Eureka, Missouri.
Were you taught by a gentleman by the name of Gene Myers, perchance?
That name sounds familiar, but gosh, that was so long ago, Matt. Now you're really challenging me.
Well, Gene is taught and coached. He was the basketball coach there, probably right around the time you were in school. Gene was my assistant at Maryville for 7 years. So
Oh, okay.
I know you know Maryville in St. Louis, and
I know
I
Maryville very
saw that
well.
you were from Fenton, so I had to ask you about Gene and Jeannie. So yeah, I'm sure you know them or know of them. They've been there for 50 years. But I
Yes.
had to ask you about that. I got a couple quick rapid fire for you before we'll end this and we'll jump into our recruiting conversation. Do you have a favorite artist or a musician or band that you like?
You know, to this day, I'm going to tell you this, and you're going to probably laugh at me. They've been around for over 40 years. It's a band called Marillion, and I might be one of the only people who've ever heard of them. No,
Spell it
I'm
for me.
teasing. It's Marillion. And I've listened to them since the early 80s, and just love them. Try and go see them anytime they come to the States. They're an English band and just have listened to them for forever, it seems.
I love new music, so I'm going to check them out. What do they like? What kind of
They're
music?
if you had to categorize them, I think it's kind of more of a prog rock
Okay, yeah.
idea. So it's one of those where I just kind of fell in love with them in the '80s and has it's stuck.
Are you a Rush guy too?
I'm not. That's what's crazy. My musical selections, I do a lot of background music in the office, and my admin will come in and she'll be like, "I have no idea what you're listening to," and I'll tell her, I'm like, "Oh, this is a great song," and so my wife you just tunes me out when we're in the car because it's usually one of those where she's like, "Oh, I got to listen to this or I got to listen to that." So, but no, I'm all over the board. Anything from Sunvolt and Wilco, kind of that alt rock
There you go.
country sounds, to some rock and roll, to some of the progressive stuff. But just I love all kinds of music. I think if I was anything else, if I could sing or play an instrument, I would have gone the music path. That's why I ended up in athletics.
If you and your wife could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go?
My wife would want us to be on a beach somewhere, tropical island.
Okay.
We've done that a couple times and always had a great experience, but that would probably be what it is. For me, it's somewhere where I can just disconnect and hang out with her.
I'm with you there. What's one word that best describes your athletic department?
I think it's gritty. I think we get after it. We try and do everything we can to win the day. So gritty would probably be the word.
Love that. Um, when it's all said and done, what do you want to be known for?
Oh gosh. Um, I think if you ask my daughters or my wife, they tell you a different story than I'm probably going to tell you. But I think the thing that, when I walk away from Bloomsburg, whenever that is, I just want people to understand that I did it because I cared. And I wanted to see them be more successful than when they walked in the building.
And that is very obvious, my friend. Thanks for doing this. If you got out a lot of this, and I don't know how you didn't get a lot out of listening to this great leader, come back on Monday. We're going to dive into Division II recruiting and what Dr. McFarland has seen as president of the Division II ADA, and kind of where we're headed, and give some advice to you parents and student athletes out there that want to play in college. So thanks for doing this, Mike.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.